Joining us live in the studio is Sam Roggeveen from the Lowy Institute. Sam, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, coronavirus absolutely dominating global politics at the moment. In particular, it's really interesting to see what the impact could be on China. Their handling has been pretty circumspect, and it's really starting to undermine President Xi Jinping.
Well, I mean, the fascinating thing to me to watch over the coming weeks is going to be the differences between the way China has responded and the way America's going to respond. So it looks like the early indications are that things have peaked in China now, and that the concern has now moved from the outbreak within China and among Chinese people to people returning from overseas. So the threat is now from the outside coming in, but the reported cases seem to be levelling off now in China. So the virus may have peaked in China. And that's happened partly as a result of a really overwhelming kind of internal quarantine effort, like tens of millions of people affected, the economy virtually grinding to a halt. It's not easy for a democracy like the United States to copy a response like that. And that's not to say that the Chinese got this right necessarily. There are other countries like South Korea and Taiwan, I think, that show how democracies can actually respond effectively. Whether the United States does that as well is still an open question. There's a really good column this morning by an American economist, Tyler Cohen, pointing out that America's always late when it comes to global crises. America's always late arriving, including to the two world wars. But when America does muck in and get involved, they tend to go big and they go hard and they fix it eventually. So what we're seeing at the moment may be just the early messy phases of America's response, but eventually, the sheer weight of American capabilities will come to bear on this problem, and also American innovation will come to bear on this problem. And so we'll see whether the systems in America hold up.
And on a slightly different topic, there was some pretty underreported news coming out about China's military capabilities, in particular where their navy's heading. Now, this is obviously at a pretty interesting time for them dealing with the coronavirus epidemic, but they certainly have been building their naval capacity around the South China Sea.
Indeed. So this went almost unnoticed last week, but a very senior former US Navy Rear Admiral published an article in the US Naval Institute website projecting essentially that China would have the world's biggest navy in 2035. 2035, coincidentally, is around the time that Australia would expect to get its first new submarine. So we're very late to this party. I mean, years ago, it was in 2009 that Kevin Rudd announced that we were going to double the size of our submarine fleet, which sounded really dramatic. But we're not even going to get the first of our new submarines until a period when China will already be the dominant military power in our region. So, I think the China debate in Australia has changed a lot over the last few years, but it's still got a way to go. I don't think we've fully internalised the sheer scale of what's going on here. And actually the coronavirus thing kind of plays into this theme in the sense that if in a few months' time or in a year's time we find that China handled this better than America, then the narrative going forward actually starts to favour China. It won't be entirely accurate, but the Chinese will be able to say, look, authoritarian systems cope with these things really well, democracies don't.